Today's video is all about DESTRA Network, empowering the next generation AI with decentralized computing. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking at some of the fundamentals, the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome on the channel. We talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins. Looking for opportunity, whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market. And of course, we're always looking for projects that potentially have some good value. And the question is, DESTRA Network, is it the opportunity? We're going to definitely be looking into this project into a bit of detail here. As I mentioned, we'll take a look at the team, the tokenomics, the overall value propositions. We're going to be looking at it from a retail perspective. Does the website, does the documentation, does the team provide all the details necessary for the average retail investor to come in here and get fundamentally bullish? That's the perspective, and that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, guys, let's dig in here. This is the website. So far so good, looks pretty good. DESTRA Network, pioneering true decentralized computing solutions for the emerging AI economy. Okay. We've been doing AI projects on a weekly basis almost lately. You know, AI has been a very popular topic in the last little bit here in the crypto space. Our comprehensive suite of offerings is designed to immerse Web3 enthusiasts in an authentic, decentralized AI. So this is something that I've been talking about quite a bit, because there's a lot of projects out there, particularly when we're talking about agents, that, you know, have a decentralized token, let's say, built on a decentralized network, but their whole backend infrastructure is AWS. Right? So off the bat, when I read this, I'm starting to sense that this is not going to be the case. They're going to have their own DePIN infrastructure, a backend, a tech stack that technically is a decentralized one and something to be bullish about. So I'm appreciating so far, as they're explaining within the first 10 seconds of being on this website, I already get a sense of what it's all about, which is good. Leveraging the robust DESTRA GPU network and cloud solutions on point. Okay, so that for me is really good. I like the graphics. I like the way it demonstrates the decentralizations of things, which is good. Let's keep on going. Language learning models, AI, and some other different little logos there. Pretty good. Train and use AI faster on a DESTRA network. DESTRA one-click deployment enables access to exclusive AI models for the masses, trained at DESTRA labs over years of historical data. So, you know, what comes to mind here is, you know, almost like a launch pad, you know, where things are easier. And I'm meaning launch pads based on the definition of AI agents. You know, it's so easy. You go in there, a couple of clicks, put in a name, put in this, connect a wallet, bang, you have an AI agent. And it also stems from the pump.fun idea, the sense that you go in, bang, 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 you have a token, right? And it requires very little know-how. It requires very little ability to, you know, to know any programming or anything whatsoever. There's no friction, let's put it that way, which is a good thing. No doubt is a good thing to allow, you know, no barriers to entry to participate into a network, into the product offerings that DESTRA has to offer. But then again, you know, quality control, you know, sometimes that comes into play, because we've seen lately within both, you know, the meme coin pump.fun narrative and within the AI agent narrative, we're seeing that quality doesn't really, you know, lend itself when we're talking about ease. When it's so easy, there's a bunch of different projects with very low value proposition. So although this is great, although this is amazing, you know, being able to deploy with one click, I'm curious as to how this actually plays out in the future. But still very valuable, very interesting. Of course, we want to be able to deploy AI models, AI solutions with their AI models, and make it available to everyone. Mass adoption, network effect. That's what we need. What else do we got? DESTRA incentive programs, rewards, and so on. Unleash the power of a one-click AI. Once again, this is that. Immerse in AI LLM training unlock full potential, Destra exclusive AI models, so proprietary maybe type of models that they've created themselves that could be possible. One-click the AI deployment again. D rings, enhance performance and efficiency using our innovative D rings. I'm curious about what that is. I'm assuming it's about building the AI agent, or the AI solution itself, and the DESTRA nodes, the decentralization of the network. Okay, so this is all obviously important because nodes are what make projects faster, right? The more, and decentralized and secure, and so on. So this is pretty interesting, of course, to see 2,400 live nodes, 40% faster, which is good. And that's that. And then we have cloud efficiency, the cloud services that they have to offer. So what's interesting here is that, I feel like their backend tech stack, their DPIN protocol, obviously from a user experience, it doesn't matter, right? It's irrelevant. And I kind of understand the marketing here, or the packaging. The reality is a user doesn't really care about the backend, right? They shouldn't really have to, right? They shouldn't know, people shouldn't know that they are using a Web3 product. So what they're trying to offer is services, typical quote unquote Web 2 services that, are Web 3, but you wouldn't know it because the user experience is so seamless that you wouldn't even know. And that's when you've done it right. That's when you've basically created another scenario where there's no barrier to entry, whether it be learning curve or just getting used to things, or maybe even doubting, or whatever the case is. When things, for example, a cloud service is done properly, in this case using Web3, it's because there's no sign of it being Web3. The backend is what's Web3. So democratizing the decentralized infrastructure service for Web3, backed by our layer 2 blockchain tailored for infrastructure transactions. So there is a layer 2. Okay, there is a layer 2 that's currently in the works. I think they're very close to deployment, which is going to be a big milestone for Destra. So the L2 is basically, right now they're primarily, they are EVM, and they're built on Ethereum. But when they release their L2, you're gonna notice that there's gonna be a different product offering, the different ability, which would be the ability for individuals to release L3s, which is a whole different conversation. We'll touch upon that just a little bit because definitely there's some value there. But let's keep on going. You can see file storage is a big part of a DPIN infrastructure, right? Web hosting, you can host a web, you can host file storages, you can host NFTs because that's still file storage, whether it be a JPEG or whatever it is that you're attaching to the contract. Regardless, that links to some sort of data online, which could most likely, it's going to be a JPEG of some sort. You got to store those JPEGs somewhere. Either it's going to be, using a solution like this, IPFS. Guys, by the way, they're very intertwined with IPFS, which is great because that's one of the most standard decentralized peer-to-peer networks out there. So that's good. Lots of good value here as I'm speaking. Meet our expert team, guys. Okay, so this is where things get interesting, and I might have to deviate from the website. Let me see how deep into the website we are. Okay, we're not bad. So you know what? I'm going to just touch base on this for a second, and then we'll jump into the team and so on. The team, is like kind of not really doxed per se, and they are in one way. So you can see Dexter, Diesel, Jules, and you got some nice, profile pics, whatever. The end of the day, guys, being fully doxed in today's environment is very valuable, super valuable, because we get to know who's behind the team, who's behind the project, what talent is there, what innovation could we potentially see being introduced based on the historical experience of these individuals, their education, their network. So much could be offered by knowing who they are, not from a personal level, but from a professional level. And this is why I hunt down a lot of the founders and head team members, on LinkedIn. I try to find out where did they come from, what's their expertise like, and that gives me some sort of foundation. Now, I understand there's a level of privacy that gets relinquished here if you get doxxed, and I truly understand the value of privacy. But in this case, there has to be a sense of understanding that knowing what the team has to offer and bring to the table is super valuable from a fundamental perspective, right? So This is interesting. So let's just kind of deviate a second here. If you click this button, it takes you to a website. And I've never really seen this website before, right? It is called Assure DeFi. And this essentially is a KYC platform, a platform that verifies various, let's call it, let's get into it, 3 steps of success: trust and credibility, strategy, marketing, promotion. So it builds a level of trust. They do the KYC and give a seal of approval that that individual, that organization, that whatever it is actually valid. So it's almost like audits individuals. So in this case, you can kind of get a sense that you won't know the individual themselves or the individuals themselves, but they will, Assure DeFi will, and they'll give the seal of approval. Okay, so that's what that is. Go, feel free to check it out. I think it's quite interesting. It might be the future with regards to becoming doxxed online, especially with privacy, guys. We know privacy is super important. Okay, so let's go back to their page, the DESTRA network. You can see DSYNC token, the first on-chain, solution. Cool, all that. July 12th, 2024. That's when they KYC'd. And you can see Diesel. This is the individual. And if I go back to their main website, you can see Diesel. This is the individual. Okay, so we're going to try to go back and forth here just a little bit, right? Diesel so has the control over the contract. That's who he's at tier 2. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing or whatever it is. There's different tiers, country tier, depending on the country you come from. Strong law enforcement. So they're moderately effectively law enforcement, lacking some resources and capabilities and efficiency to pursue a crypto-related cyber crime. So tier 2, I'm not sure if that's valid or not or whatever. You guys have to make your own decisions on what that means. It's mid-tier, tier 2, I guess. As we keep on going down, 85 is their audit score. I'm guessing it's out of 100. And then their ecosystem is Ethereum. Contract address is this, and you can download a final report or something like that and kind of see what they're all about. So they're KYCing that this is who this person is. They're valid, and but still doesn't give me much information. I am obviously concerned about the legalities of things and the country tiers and all of this. Of course it is, but it's not about that only. It's about knowing who these individuals are as far as talent. Right? Like, what's the talent behind it? Like, I would like to know, like, do they have experience from other chains or other blockchain experience or within the industry and things like that? What connections do they have? And for me, that's more important than even in a way knowing exactly, like, the KYC aspect of things. KYC aspect is great, sure. But up until now, this space has been doing quite fine without it, just by doing a little bit of research on, the validity of the individual. Okay, so this is great, but again, it doesn't replace being fully doxxed, and it doesn't replace a resume and getting to know the team. And that's the facts, right? Okay, so let's move on. Let's get back into the team right here, back to the main website. So that's them. Partnerships, they got some good, interesting relationships. Of course, Assure DeFi, that's the website that I went. I don't know if that's a partnership or not, guys. I wouldn't classify that as a partnership if that's the relationship that they have, that they just offered KYC. I would say it's not a partnership. It's a relationship. It is. They use their services. That's cool. But I don't know how that would be classified as a strategic partnership. And including Altcoin, I'm not sure how that's another DPIN peer-to-peer infrastructure protocol that is OG. It's been around forever. And I'm not sure exactly how that plays into, the whole DESTRA ecosystem. And it's not clickable and anything like that. Ideally, what should happen here is that you would have a clickable link to a blog post, a Medium post, which they do have, which is great, that would explain their relationship, right? And define if it is a partnership or not, type of thing. So Hack-in, Arbitrum, that's an L2. I don't know why that would be here at the current moment. I'm not sure. So that's that. Let's keep on moving down. DESTRA subnets. Okay, this is where things get quite interesting. Okay, because this is what we're waiting for. This is the major milestone, in my opinion. This is where things start to get a little bit, this is where DESTRA is going to shine, because once it comes up with this L2, they're going to be allowing DESTRA subnets, which is technically allows individuals, regular developers or individuals, to come in and to basically release an AI-powered L3 blockchain with complete suite of decentralized cloud services for enterprise. So an individual can come and just basically use the L2 boilerplate and build their L3 blockchain and essentially come up with their whole a whole plethora, a whole suite of different AI-powered AI solutions, which is quite interesting. So they're definitely in the work. This is in the works. This is going to be the next level. And I feel like because they are focused on the back end and they have the infrastructure, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about that infrastructure again once we go into their documentation, because a lot of us know that they have some good relationships there as well. It could be, definitely game changer in the space, right? An L3. I haven't really seen that either. So maybe a first mover advantage type of scenario. What is DSYNC and how does it contribute to decentralization? Feel free to read this because they offer a lot of products, services, particularly DNS and so on and so forth. Guys, there's lots to offer. How can users access website hosted on Destra? So again, there's a bit of friction there because websites built on Destra can't get access through Chrome or any other Chromium-based browsers per se. They need to either have an extension or have the ability to get into these websites. So Opera and Brave do have that. They can access the websites directly through ENS domain names, but the others need some sort of either tweaking or a gateway tweak of some sort. And there's other questions and answers here if you want to take a look at them. All right, guys, so that's that. Docs, projects, GPU network, deploy AI. I have a lot of these links already open. Products, what's this? Let's see what products is. Let's get that open. I have the docs open already. GPU network, let's open that up. All right, let's get going. Let's see what this is. This is the DESTRA network. Okay, so this is what's going to be what is going to represent the L2. Okay, you're going to see a lot of these services within the L2 product offerings. Now, if you look at what their language on the website right here, you can see complete suite. This is the complete suite right here. You're getting all kinds of storage, domain services. You're getting web hosting, GPU node, storage node, a lot of different things, and then models, a lot of different things regarding DPIN. And that's your one-stop shop, basically one-stop shop solution for DPIN. So for me, this is an interesting thing. And again, I think the L2 is going to be the major milestone for Destra. Okay, let's continue. This is the same thing. These are their nodes. If you want to be involved, they give you some of the information to get involved, the different setup to become a node or a node provider. And in this case, lots of good information there if you want get into that deeper. And this is their docs, okay, which is good because it's powered by Gitbook, and I appreciate that, guys. You know that I like the Gitbook white paper style instead of just having a PDF. This is a working document. You can search and dig through it a lot easier. So kudos to them for making this decision. And I've seen a lot of projects as of late make this transition into something more, like this, which is good. So it's been updated about 10 months ago. I would say some pages maybe a little older, a little bit newer or more recent. But generally 10 months in my book is a long time. It needs a bit of an update, even though introduction may not need an update, but the rest may need an update. Okay, so I'm not going to get into this right here because we talked about a lot of this already. It's an AI, DPIN solution, and we're waiting for their layer 2 and so on and so forth. So it's doing pretty good from that perspective. Let's get into the roadmap. Guys, the roadmap is outdated here. Okay, so we got to be real about what this means. This means that there's nothing to offer us as far as value. But the good news is I was able to find their updated roadmap. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Let's see, it's right here. Roadmap 2025. Okay, so it was released May 3rd, so it's pretty good. About a month old or just slightly over. So, but it's okay because it covers the whole year of 2025. Q1, you can see there's different things happening: staking incentive program, and so on and so forth. So they're still trying to crank this out. But we want to get into what's really happening now. Their mainnet is along the way. Right, so there's no official date or anything like that I can find or know of, but I can see that they are still in this phase, trying to go with this. And then you can see there's a lot of this tokenized intelligence, which is very interesting to me. NFT backend AI agents, permissionless AI model hosting, cognitive compute credits for their marketplace. So they're going to have their marketplace, synthetic strategy generators. This sounds next level. And if you read the details, it kind of makes sense of decentralizing every aspect of AI. right? So it reminds me of heavyweights, because there's some heavyweight projects that are doing some similar stuff here, but this project right here is trying to compete with the heavyweights, and we're talking about like near protocol, even Arweave, and so on. So this is interesting. Scaling agents and mesh compute, lots of good stuff here. You can read that, and this is Q3 essentially, and then we got the Q4 by the end of the year. Deep tech and sentient ecosystems. But what's interesting to me is the progression through that layer 2. I want to see that layer 2. I think that's where the biggest milestone is, and that's where we're going to see a lot of interest. So guys, dig through this. It's fully detailed quarterly, and you guys know I appreciate at least some time-based commitments, and they do have it. So it's all here, and they give you enough detail to get bullish as to what they're going to be deploying and when they're going to be deploying it, and lots of learning here. So good stuff. And yeah, let's move on. So that's their roadmap. So although it is outdated here, they do have a model. Is it an excuse? Should they get it updated here as soon as possible? This needs to be updated as soon as possible. It doesn't take much, right? The marketing team should be able to do this in a few clicks. And I know it takes time and it takes commitment to keep documentation up to date, but it's necessary, okay? Especially in today's environment where alts are already suffering. We don't need another excuse for more pain, okay? So Destra Cloud, they got stuff happening here, cloud solutions. We talked about that. GPU network, again, decentralizing that processing power, GPU processing power. Feel free to check this out. More about their architecture and their consensus mechanism and their workflow and how things, you can see physics, mathematics happening there. If you want to get into that detail, go for it. And then we have this, which a lot of people have been talking about, okay, which is this concept of being integrated with BitTensor. One of the projects that a lot of people have been yapping about with regards to DPIN. So core features and functionality, BitTensor integration at the heart of Destra decentralized TPU network. It is integration with BitTensor. So this is a good thing. People are seeing that, they have very strong relationships in this case, which I am, curious as to why, this is not publicized on their main website. On the front screen with all those other partnerships or logos that they got going on there. So for me, this is a good one. It should be part of one of the main value propositions here is having great relationships with other great projects out there. So democratizing access to AI, incentivizing participation in TPU. There's a lot of good stuff here again, but integrating BitTensor within their tech stack is, I think, a bonus. It's amazing, right? So that's good. That's a good thing. Advanced AI computing algorithms, go check that out. Again, we're not going to get into too much within the tech, right? We're talking about crypto. We're talking about the token utility. What is the token for DSYNC? What is the purpose? That's what we're trying to gather. This is not a tech review of any sort. It is a crypto Web3 review in general. And what we're trying to deep dive into is the token itself. So we're slowly building our thesis here as to what the token can be used for and the value behind it. Okay, so decentralized cloud solutions. Okay, so that's what is involved here. One-click decentralized ENS gateway. We talked about all this storage solution, distributed network. We talked about this proof of consensus. So there's the proof of sync. So the ability to sync and be a value. So it ensures that the nodes contributing resources to the network are doing so as promised. So high quality, contributors, and those individuals are likely to get very rewarded in this case. So rewards are distributed based on the contributions and usage patterns of the nodes, with proof of sync ensuring fair and transparent calculation. So this is, again, almost like it's very similar to many other projects that do similar things, but every project puts their own little twist to it. So that's cool. At the end of the day, looking for fairness, scalability, security, decentralization, and then the Destra chain, something that we've been talking about. Again, waiting for this layer 2 solution on Ethereum, leverages the principles of zero knowledge proofs, cryptographic practices, and introduces innovative proof of sync consensus mechanisms to offer blockchain platform uniquely tailored for infrastructure rather than financial transactions. This is why a lot of projects come up with their own blockchain. because they can make it a modular blockchain if need be, if that's the part of the strategy, but more importantly, make it custom for the use case, for the utility of the token. Right? What is the token going to be used for? It's going to be used to power a project, to power an ecosystem of various product offerings, right? And this chain, technically speaking, and this token, the liquidity that is provided to the tokens, need to have some sort of correlation with value. Right? What's the point of having a token attached to a blockchain that is not tailored to maximize the value of the product offering? So in this case, you can tweak and tailor the entire tech stack to match exactly what you're trying to achieve. Now, this is not a DeFi project per se. So why are you going to get into or use an L1 or a blockchain that is tailored for DeFi? You get what I mean? So I understand their logic, and making a layer 2, in my opinion, is a pretty decent strategy. Why? Because you can still attract liquidity from the Ethereum main chain. Right, the base chain has a lot of liquidity. We know Ethereum has its own DeFi, in that case, and it's going to be easy to tap into Ethereum's DeFi and obviously Ethereum's ecosystem. So being even compatible nowadays is very valuable, and we've seen a lot of projects even go backwards, going from their mainnet to L1 custom blockchain, and then going backwards to become EVM and introducing it as a L2 because of the Ethereum effect from EVM compatibility. So this is interesting, guys. So not bad of a choice. I appreciate what they're doing here. And let's see. Decentralized CDN, decentralized CDN powered by DESTRA Net. So again, more things here to dig deep into. Decentralized CDN solution, regimes, okay, Web3 ecosystem, and so on. Feel free to check that out. And then the economics of things. So the economics of things get a little bit vague for me here. This is where I would like the typical tokenomics. Now, I would like to say that a lot of projects that are fully diluted, meaning all the tokens are in circulation, feel the lack or there's no need to provide specifics because everything's already in distribution. So why care? Well, the history is kind of important, right? Because it kind of gives you a bit of security as to how it was launched. And I know maybe it's not as valuable, but it does make people feel, okay, this is how it was launched. Was it a fair launch? Was it, was there a vesting schedule, this and that? And, it does help understand, the token allocation, right? The distribution of the token across the network or across the market. And that's very important. Now, there's no at this point we're waiting for some some details as far as governance goes and so on. There's nothing really happening there, but there's staking and fair allocation algorithm, the smart contracts, payment for services, that's the main utility, and so on and so forth. But I'm expecting a little bit more here in the future as the L2 comes out, right? Because as the L2 comes out, now we're going to have L3s. And as soon as you have L3s come out, there's going to be more utility. And because of the extended utility, the economics of things might change. Okay, so there's not enough here for me to get, really clear. But still, guys, I have the details for you. So hang tight. Let's keep on moving forward. With regards to revenue, so this is something that when I was doing the research, I was like, okay, all the tokens are in circulation. Mind you, let's step back a little bit. We're talking about, and we're not even getting the perfect numbers here on CoinGecko, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Okay, so there's a max supply of 1 billion, pretty much 99.9 total supply. And of course, this is not giving it to you. But if you go on maybe CoinMarketCap, it's there. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there is a burn mechanism. Okay, a burn mechanism that burns the tokens. And that would have been great to be very clear on the economics page there that I just showed you. This one right here. Explain everything with regards to the tokenomics. Now, in this case, why is there less total supply? It's because there's a burn mechanism, and bit by bit they're getting taken out of circulation. There's no token. Although a billion was in the max, as they get burnt, we're going to see the total supply come down, and obviously that's going to bring pressure on the price, because less in circulation because of the burn means that supply is going to go down, and therefore, because supply going down, technically speaking, as long as demand holds steady or goes up, we should see an increase in price, right? So this is very, very necessary. Now, You can see that this market cap is not even listed here, but it's fully diluted. So its market cap and future fully diluted valuation are the same. Now, again, this needs to be updated, and I'll just let you know this has nothing to do with the Destra team per se, because CoinGecko itself takes forever to actually get this thing updated. So maybe Destra team can put a bit of pressure to see if they can get this fixed, because a lot of people use CoinGecko, and it's not accurate. Anyways, back to this. So if all the tokens are in distribution, essentially, and you're thinking, okay, I can earn via staking, how does the project itself, how does the team earn anything? Right? To make this business, let's be real, it is a business that requires, resources, marketing dollars, and so on, whatever it is. It needs some sort of liquidity for that, even getting listed on exchanges and so on. How do they get that to happen? Now, I'm just going to tell you this: as of now, the team is getting no capital from any of the reward, any of the earning, whatever, and whatever they receive from earning. And again, their earning potential is there and it's active, and we'll talk about how they earn in a second. They just get all those whatever they earn, whatever profit they make, they put it right back into the token holders. The stakers get all the reward, and that's a sign of commitment to actually get people have an incentive to stake, right, to have TVL, right? If they can lock up as much tokens as possible because of the incentives being so high to lock up, essentially they're technically taking tokens out of circulation, right? Not in a structured way, but based on people saying, you know what, I have an incentive to lock up my tokens here for a longer term hold because I'm earning passively. Right, and that's a decent strategy, but at the same time, the team is being very, very, giving, in the sense that they're not taking anything at the current moment to put back into the business. There's going to come to a point where governance might say, let's take some and let's put it into a pool for marketing, because people will understand, even token holders, even stakers will understand that without marketing dollars, it's going to be hard to get this project to propel even further. So there's going to be a point where a governance model needs to be introduced, and the governance model should be in the mindset of not only earning passively today, but to ensure that the growth of the project is sustainable through infusing more capital into the business itself, right? Because at the end of the day, these are software businesses, these are software solution companies, and they need to have some sort of budget. Their budget currently is primarily based on the tokens that were released initially in the initial token distribution. And this is why I said on their documentation, it would be nice to have that token distribution clearly defined as to, and the wallet addresses to be clearly defined and so on, in a very clear and succinct way. Okay, so that we understand exactly where the tokens are. And I'm going to do my best to give you that clarity as much as I'll let you know it's pretty good. Okay, it's actually clear and clean. There's nothing to worry about, but that's my 2 cents. Now, going on with that, like I said, there's a max supply here. And as we go down, there's a few wallets, transfers, okay, exchange contracts. Let's see, holders. Let's go right here to holders. This is what I typically want to spend a little bit more time on now. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's this one right here that is the wallet for the team. And you can see that it's not even that much. The rest is contracts, right? Contracts. And what I'm saying is the team to use for marketing and so on. Okay. So that's, and this is what they use to get things going. Now you can see Mexi, Gate, another contract, and so on. So the reality is, yes, top 6 wallets, top 5 wallets hold a lot of them. I would say, a good portion, but it's all locked liquidity into exchanges. And this is what you need in order to have, liquidity on an exchange to be able to be traded, right? So this is normal. And the rest of the wallets, you can see that they're very spread and it's very normal, right? So if you look at the chart, or this pie chart, you can see that these are the gates and maxis, but then after we get into very small ones, to the point that others, 54% is others, which is small accounts, and these are still very small as well. Look, 0.36, 0.35, 0.3, 0.25. These are small accounts as well. So we're doing pretty good. There's about 50,600 token holders. different wallets and so on. This is great. This is really distributed, and it's not too bad as far as the transparency is there, no doubt. One of the members of the team were willing to answer all my questions and gave me a lot of clarity with regards to these tokenomics. It's just unfortunate that it's not on the document there. Okay, what else do we got? So we talked about the team a little bit. I was only able to verify them based on this service. And then let's get into the socials real quick. You can see that their socials are fairly decent. 42,000 followers. Again, their market cap is small. It's not that big, but there's a lot of upside potential because of that. Okay, so we have to understand that as well. But for 42,000 followers, okay, let's put in perspective. This is their pinned comment, right? This is pinned, I'm assuming. Okay, this one got 429 likes. Pretty good retweets there, and then we can see a few others, 356. I'll tell you this, there's projects out there that I do deep dives on and look at their socials. They have many more followers but a lot less engagement, so that tells you something. That tells you that their marketing right now is on point, and they're probably pouring tons in marketing dollars in right now, which is healthy and fine and normal. Okay, this is the reality. You want a team that is going to get the word out there, and this is super important, right? Because that's the problem with fair launches as well. Like, you need a bit of capital, and I'm glad to see that the team has a wallet full of capital, some capital there to deploy on marketing dollars, right? Fair launch has no capital. There's nothing happening there. They need to run a bake sale to get some marketing dollars, which is crazy. In this case, they do have a bit of capital. It's not a crazy amount. We looked at the wallet. It's a decent, fair amount, and it's being used for the team. Now, I don't know exactly what they're using it for with regards to marketing. It's a hunch that I have based on their engagement. Look at this: 532 likes and 124 retweets on a social that only has 40,000 subscribers. That's not common. Okay, so there's a lot of activity happening here, so that's good. Marketing is on point. Let's keep on going. Look at their Medium page. Usually when I see Medium page, I would say 9 out of 10 teams have Medium pages, but their posts are 1 or 2 years old. I'm glad to say that their posts are not bad. May 20th, so it's at least within this year, and it's within the last little few weeks, which is great. At least they're active and they're communicating. Now, I would use this more. I would be using this more and making everything that they have on their main page linkable to some sort of explanation, and have everything linked to Medium. It will help with their Medium traction on socials for being found online, all that kind of stuff, SEO and all of that. But not only that, it would give us transparency to know what those relationships and things are that maybe don't have space on the website, but maybe a conversation or some sort of clarity with regards to that. This is where I found the roadmap. You can see that pretty good stuff there, and so on and so forth. You can find a lot of information that's fairly recent. Okay, the last few are good. May 20, May 3rd, those are good, solid posts. Let's keep it going. What they have to do is don't let this fall behind, because then it looks unmanned, and then when it looks unmanned, it looks basically abandoned. Don't abandon rather than not have a Medium page, then abandon it. Okay, so they're doing good, so keep it up. Do a post soon, very soon. Okay, let's move on. And back to this, the DESTRA chain, guys. I'm not gonna get into this too much detail. We're waiting on their L2, and this is describing what their L2 is all about. This is a little older. That's fine. 5-minute read, a little older, but still, I think their game plan and their idea, what they want to achieve here with regards to a service layer, and then the application layer, which is the L3s that are going to be coming out after the L2s. I think it's a great idea. And usually with the L2 idea, they come up with zero knowledge proof technology behind it, and so many other custom little things that they might put into it to obviously differentiate itself from other L2s, which is the competition. Okay, so pretty good stuff here. Ultimately, again, I'm not going to get into the mathematics and the physics and all of that, guys. If you want that type of deep dive, there's lots of good information, as can be seen all over the place. You can definitely look into it more, and we talked about the roadmap. We did all of that already, so that's pretty good. Now, as usual, guys, I do release an infographic summarizing my experience and what I've found, so I'm going to share that with you right now. All right, here we go. We got the DESTRA network overview. So let's begin by looking at their ecosystem. I think their ecosystem is great. They got everything that you kind of need for a complete decentralized solution for AI. DESTRA Cloud, you have the SDKs and the APIs necessary in order to create for the backend for developers, the DNS, the decentralized DNS, the node network, and much more. They got working, and their ecosystem is growing internally, which is great. 10 out of 10 for their utility, the gas and the launch fees for subnets, which is about to come around the corner. There's the bird mechanism and staking capabilities. I believe the future will have a lot more as we see the project grow. So I do have a lot of hope for it, and this is why I gave it 8 out of 10, because there's possible growth here. If you're looking for a project that's all 10 out of 10s on everything, the likelihood of growth is not there, which means that you're either buying overbought or overvalued, or maybe true value, but already expanded into large market cap. So you got to think about it, right? This thing has a lot more potential as they keep on building, and 8 out of 10 in this case is not a bad thing. It just means that there's opportunity. Okay, so because I can see what they're building, and as soon as they finish building, this is going to be 10 out of 10. Just throwing it out there. Okay, guys. Roadmap, 9 out of 10. They just need an update because it's there. It just you shouldn't expect a retail investor to have to dig around the internet to find it. It should be on their dock. Their dock is about a year old, give or take. It needs to be updated as soon as possible, especially in this environment where a lot of us are speculating and looking for projects to deploy capital in. You don't want any friction whatsoever. No friction. Okay, so let's move on from that concept. The team is not fully doxed. Okay, we got to be clear about that. The team, look, they did a good thing by getting involved with Assure DeFi, verifying, projects and teams and so on. That's what they do, and they almost like KYC. But that means that we don't get to know the team itself, like what they're all about. Apparently they have 10 years of experience in distributed systems, AI, and Web3. That's apparent. It could be true, could be not. I don't know. But obviously, we don't know, right? If they had a LinkedIn page where we can get some information, they could verified, connections across the industry, history, work history, education from different universities, we would feel a little bit better about it. You got to admit, and the team has to understand that. So from that perspective, I appreciate the Assure DeFi verifying them as a team and valid. They do. Assure DeFi does have some fine print saying that they are not responsible for this and that, and it almost feels like, okay, then what's the value of this KYC process? But nonetheless, guys, they do have it, and they operate under DESTRA Labs, and this is what it is. So I feel like maybe I was 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 would have been totally fine within this realm, because to be honest, nothing beats being fully doxed. Okay, I've been in this space for long enough to know that that's a very valuable thing. And of course, if you're speculating and you're trying to figure out what a project value proposition is, its team is a big part of it. Okay, so we gotta understand that. But then again, we can't. We have to understand that the team, privacy is golden, right, as well. So we get it. I get it. Let's put it that way. Socials, I'm impressed. Good engagement. 41,000 followers with decent engagement. Like I mentioned before, I've seen socials with much higher, much more followers, upwards of above 200,000 with nowhere near as much engagement. So they're doing something right. Either they have a campaign that is going hot right now or whatever it is, but they're doing something right. No Discord, unfortunately, but Telegram is active, and then Min is very helpful and willing to answer questions. Guys, A+ for that. Now I'm gonna just say this: the only reason I feel like there's area of improvement is because by far Discord for growing a valuable community, and this is from again my experience. If you want to grow a valuable community, one that could grow into something strong, a Discord beats Telegram any day. Telegram is great for what it does, and it's a very passive, casual, it gets very noisy and messy and clunky. Discord is where you get really hardcore community members building and talking, because you can have higher quality conversations on Discord. So I would highly recommend a Discord for sure, and get into that and pour some effort into there. But the Telegram is on fire, and the admin in the Telegram, A plus, amazing, willing to help and very, very accommodating. So I appreciate that for sure. Tokenomics, 10 out of 10. Okay, so every on-chain interaction fee is burnt, okay? And it's actively deflationary. That's why on some of the aggregators, coin market cap and so on, you will see that their total market cap, their total supply is actually smaller than the max. Then you're asking, well, is more tokens going to be issued? No, that's because they're burnt, right? The total's been burning. So they're slowly coming down. Tokens in full distribution and 6.5% held by contracts or exchanges. Yes, I understand that might sound like a lot, but it's not, because you need that liquidity on MEXC and so on and so forth. And out of that 6.5, a small portion of it is for running the project. So they're all tied up into contracts and so on. So I think that's okay, it's acceptable, and 10 out of 10 for tokenomics. There's very little to worry about here. And yeah, let's move on to relationships. They have relationships with the IPFS infrastructure, meaning that I'm not talking about relationships, person to person or business to business only, about how they're integrating within the field. And IPFS integration, BitTensor integration, Filecoin integration, and these relationships with these other protocols, a 10 out of 10 for me. Now there's other relationships, but I'm looking at ones that are strategic. Now, if I am missing any strategic relationship here, it's because the team didn't communicate it properly. And this is why I said earlier is that it's very important that if they slap any logos on their website, have them clickable so they can be read, researched. If they cannot be, it's hard to find information, valid information online. You got to go dig around socials, and we know that socials sometimes is not the best source of information. Primary research comes from the primary source, which is the team. Okay, so that's that. Exchanges, 5 out of 10, not because it's bad, just because the liquidity out there is tied to a few exchanges. MEXC, Gate, BingX, KSEX, and Weeks, and that's about it. We're waiting for some major exchanges. We're waiting for other exchanges, Bybit, KuCoin, CoinX, whatever it is that you're, Binance, of course, and the works, right? We're looking for Coinbase. We're looking for a lot of them. And that means that every time there's going to be an announcement for a listing, we are going to see some volatility, and usually it is to the upside. So what I'm saying here is, if you're looking for a 10 out of 10, there's no more opportunity to see growth with regards to exchange listing growth. There's a lot of growth potential here as they get their liquidity listed on different exchanges. So keep an eye on this. This is an opportunity, not necessarily a weakness. But then again, we want liquidity out there. We want to be able to buy and sell. We want to be able to take profit. And without major exchanges, it's very hard to find that liquidity. We can't rely on only a few mid-tier exchanges to give us what we need. Okay, so let's hope they get more exchanges. Let's hope that we have some allocation so that when they get listed, we can enjoy the ride to the upside, and so on and so forth. So far so good, guys. And again, their whole tokenomics, their volume has been a little low lately, only 2% of its market cap. I would like to see more. I usually like to see about at least 5%, at least 5%, but you can't blame them. The whole market is pretty dry, guys. It's a desert out there. What can we say? And again, the supply and so on and all of this, we already spoke about that. And then my final verdict. This is an overview, guys. You can feel free to read that. We did a great overview already throughout the video, so I'm not going to get into that repetition. I just like having it there so that you guys can reflect on it in the future. It's a good resource to give yourselves a quick refresher of what the project is about as time passes, if you want to kind of take a look. All right, so what is it? Okay, it's a DPIN, AI, storage, NFTs, EVM. There's so much happening here. We're just putting the major topics, and of course, the ENS solution. There's so many solutions here, but majority of it is DPIN. No matter what it is, it's DPIN. Right, and they can slap anything else on top of that DPIN infrastructure, whether it be GPU, compute distribution, decentralized distribution of compute, or AI, or file storage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's DPIN, and why I like it the most is because DPIN can pivot into any narrative, right? Because really, it's a utility. What could it be used for? Anything. DPIN can be used for anything, which is great because depending on the flavor of the month or flavor of the season, they could easily pivot into the hottest new narratives based on the back-end infrastructure that they have. And I appreciate that. So its longevity, its product offering is pretty much a project, pretty much doesn't expire. It's very hard to kind of make that expire. Okay, so that's great. All revenue generated goes to stakers. They don't take anything as of now. Maybe in the future that might change. Again, their plan is to have governance and maybe a full DAO and so on. But at the current moment, all revenue generated from the services that they offer to end consumer. Again, using all those services, they generate revenue from all of those services that they offer, and then that revenue gets completely distributed to stakers. Guys, that's a value proposition to stake. That's an incentive. That's the reason why people want to stake on this network, and they want to keep it that way. Why? Because they want to have total value locked up high, nice and high. So good distribution project wallets represents about 66%. So you can see that there's not a lot of concentrated wallets, which is good. There's only a few here and there, but those are meant for liquidity. So that's not bad. Governance in the future, documentation needs an update. We talked about that already, because really the updating of the documentation is important, guys. It's a little bit outdated. Roadmap is outdated. A lot of the pages are about 10 months old. I think a bit of detail there. Also, detail to what is actively being done can be found on socials, and the socials right now are what's pumping, right? So yeah, okay, they don't, maybe a roadmap is great, but also being connected to what is really happening at the ground level. The only way you're going to get those speedy distributions of what's happening is through social media, and you can tell they're on fire. Okay, so that's great. No major exchanges yet. We're waiting for that to happen. Binance and Coinbase and all the rest. All they have right now is one of the bigger ones is MEXC, and that's about it. L2 mainnet launch. This is something that we should be waiting for. It needs to be announced. DESTRA Network mainnet will allow subnets to be deployed as L3 solutions. That's interesting. I'm not seeing much of this talk across the markets of these L3 solutions. One-stop shop. DePIN solutions. That's great. Lots of marketing efforts lately. Like I mentioned, I can tell something's up over there. And not only that, guys, projections, I don't give signals, I don't give targets. I don't know where it's going to go, but I can tell you this: if we're going to compare it with other projects, and still even other projects like Aether or ATH, it's still small. It's still like the altcoins in general are still at a bottom level, and to say that it only can do a 3x, in my opinion, is not fair, because the whole market, even DePIN itself, in my opinion, is still undervalued. We haven't really got its major run. If you compare it from the last cycle, DePIN was just introduced very slightly. Filecoin, we had a few Arweaves, a few near protocol, and that was about it. Now we're coming up with a lot more, and we're seeing a lot more improvements in the tech and the distribution and so on. And ultimately, this should attract more capital when the total market cap rises. So when the total market cap rises, do you think DSYNC is only going to attract a certain percentage that would only make it go up 3x based on its market cap? I say that it has a potential to at least hit a projection of maybe $1. That for me is a very modest and very possible. And of course, there's no certainties here, but why not, when we see the total market cap rise, could DESTRA attract a lot more capital than we expect? And I think it's very, very possible, guys. I give this project a 9 out of 10. There's a few odds and ends that could be improved. Of course, projects to get 10 out of 10 for me, they're rare, and it has nothing to do with, me saying, oh, if it's 10 out of 10, for sure, it's going to go to the moon. It's not about that. It's because if the project has a well-packaged, if the team created a well-packaged project, it could still receive a 10 out of 10 and do super, super well because of the effort that they've put in. And you can see the effort that the DESTRA team has put into this project, giving it a good rating. So I appreciate what they have going on here. I'm interested in see what the future holds. I'm going to be in touch with their community to see what the next steps are, and I'll definitely keep you guys posted on the socials as well. we go along here with this project. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin as well. Let's go see what's going on with the DESTRA chart. DSYNC is the token. As you can see, guys, like the rest of the alts, bottom of the range, floor price achieved, perhaps. As you can see, it's been going sideways for a bit, and as you know, I don't buy tops, I buy bottoms. Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. As you can see, we're at the bottom of the range here, guys. And this is where I usually say risk to reward is in your favor. There's no other better place to take chances when you're at a floor price where the sellers, at any opportunity, at every opportunity that there's sell pressure, there's no sales. We don't make a lower low. Guys, if you've been following the news lately, there's all kinds of incentive to get fearful, to have uncertainty, and to have doubt. But the reality is that we're not making lower lows, and a lot of projects aren't either. It does look like, you know, we're very volatile. It does seem like some of them are coming down, but the reality is not in a big way. It's not enough compared to what we have been seeing in previous cycles. It looks like, generally speaking, altcoins are already at the bottom of the range, and usually this is when we define the floor price, where buyers are not buying and sellers are not selling. However, if we look at this general area where DSYNC, by the way, this TA is, you know, because I've covered it before on the live streams. So feel free to join those live streams. We talk about all the latest alpha and all the latest setups. But as you can see, that if you look at the volume stemming from about 24 cents all the way down to about, I would say, 11 cents, you can see that there's a lot of volume in here. Now, a lot of it is older volume from July and so on, from last year. And then now we're talking about this volume. Now, can we separate this volume? Let's exclude the previous volume and just look at what's happening here. We got a bit of sell pressure, obviously. You know, supply here is outperforming demand. And then here we got a good amount of volume, as you can see still. So what does that tell you? There's a bit of a battle happening here. Sellers and buyers, buyers and sellers, they're doing their thing, you know, distributing and buying and accumulating and so on. So some people are selling, some people are buying, and we're going sideways. I would like to say that I like this. I like to say that at least we're not making a lower low, but we did make a higher high. I appreciate that. I also identified the fact that this is still a potential area of resistance. So we got to be careful there. Then all the way up, we see a bit of weakness in the sense that there's not a lot of volume here. I can expect a lot of trapped liquidity on all these little tops, you know, and there's an incentive for a sweep, which we already kind of had one already. Could we go for another one, for another sweep? In that case, maybe we start building the structure that, you know, starts to look like this, and then we start moving to the upside, and we start looking at this as a pivot point structure at the bottom of the range. You know, looking for rounded bottoms is a big part of my strategy, and because rounded bottoms generally give us that indication of nice, slow, and steady limit order accumulation, and that's where, you know, we know that those individuals are holding and going to hodl through a major rally, right? That's what usually limit orders represent. We're not looking for quick moves. We're looking for accumulation spot buys, so sustainable moves to the upside based on long-term, you know, diamond hands. That's basically what we're looking for. So that's when I look at these bottom ranges, I'm like, what are these goons doing down here? There's likely to be accumulating. Now, I know that the possibility of manipulation exists here. Because, like, if you follow AMD structures, accumulation, manipulation, distribution, the reality is that this could be an accumulation phase. We could definitely have a manipulation phase and then come down for a distribution phase where we come down and make lower lows and get people a little bit wrecked here. However, guys, at the same time, it could also go in the inverse, right? This manipulation backtest in spring is something else that we need to be prepared for, because ultimately this is where the max pain is as well. And the reason being is, think about it. How many people are putting their stop losses here? How many people are calculating their position sizes based on liquidations being around here? A lot. Because reality, that's the invalidation. Invalidation is below these bottoms. That's the support that everybody looks for. And because of that, we're going to see a lot of potential liquidity there being trapped. And if the market makers can come down and sweep that liquidity and get these people wrecked just before they bounce and get back above, guys, expect this to happen. So what does that tell you? That tells you that this is a trading moment. This is a moment of which this will define you as a trader. What are you going? How are you going to handle this? Could be the best potential scenario for you to accumulate DESTRA and get involved in the asset, but also the most riskiest because of the scenario of being manipulated out of your bags and being shaken out before we get the recovery and back to previous highs and so on and so forth, right? And again, we're waiting on Ethereum and the rest of the market, altcoins and the Bitcoin dominance to fall. We're waiting for all these other little things that we discuss on a daily basis to fall into place. But in the meantime, are we going to negate the fact that this thing's at a floor price? And that's the problem. So for me, it's about this. First of all, let's take a look at oscillators for a second. You can see that even though the floor price is achieved, we did get slightly overbought here with that swing to the upside, and now we're back to the bottom of the range pretty much, which means that we could definitely get oversold again. The volatility line got oversold again, almost. We're waiting for it to come down a little bit more. At that point, we're going to go for another bullish response. Each bullish response up here, and as you can see right here and here, made lower lows. Unfortunately, you can see that, right? Now, all of a sudden, is there an incentive for another sweep to sweep these tops, right? People going short, going short, going short. This is liquidity trap based on shorts, right? It's very possible. Momentum's in the downtrend. However, are we going to get oversold, or are we going to do what we did in the past and not get oversold? By the way, oversold conditions is below 30%. So this is where, the market plays the little games. And the games are this: transitionary phases. Transitionary phases between accumulation and distribution are the most ruthless phases. Why? Is because that's where usually market makers want to shake you out of their bags before the next big move, which is either coming down or going up. Accumulation is right now, distribution is at the top where we roll over. Just before it falls on a rollover, we get that major shakeout scenario, and then it dumps, right? And just before it rallies and it pumps, we get that major shakeout manipulative price action, and then it rallies. So that's why when we see these rounded bottoms or these accumulation phases, these phases of which clarity is so good, market makers like to play games and induce a lot of pain before things start to get good, right? So we have to understand that this is the time not to take too much risk, but to start exposing yourself to possibility of, volatility, and therefore you have to take some sort of risk, calculated risk. And the calculated risk is based on the clear invalidation at this level. 10-cent invalidation, start coming below there, closing daily candles, maybe even, coming down and back testing and springing and going like this could be a scenario where we see this thing roll over and come down to oversold conditions. And then we start to say to ourselves, well, then what would get us bullish? Well, a couple of things. Either we get a structure down here and we get into a long down here with a stop loss underneath, or we get back up of quick and back test and spring. But usually it's so quick that it does one of these. Swing, 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 back test, bounce, and we're done. This was the manipulation. That's another thing to wait for. So I would say this. Again, buying spot right now is probably the best thing you could do. Right? If you fundamentally like the project and if you're interested, obviously none of this is financial advice, guys, but if you're going to do it, this is not a bad place to do it, right? Spot only. Then if you want to wait for some confirmations, wait for it to come down. If you want to be a hero and buy the dip down here, guys, you're buying in nomad's land. It's likely to get a reaction anyway. But then on the back test, we need to break back above. If we get rejected, guys, get out. At least you bought here. At least you can get out here, and at least you're taking a small loss on the exit pump. Okay, but then if we get back above the horizontal, it's not bad of a scenario. Why? Because then we have the opportunity to respect previous support as we've respected it in the past. Which means that if we happen to be lucky enough for a back test, and then the spring, we would have an opportunity to buy here and put the stop loss underneath here. We have an opportunity to buy in on the break of the previous high, which would be a confirmation of another higher high. And the trend is your friend, and we start moving upwards from here. And tell me you haven't seen this setup over and over and over. This happens all the time. Okay, so the only difference between me and other traders, and I'm not saying all of them, is I fight for my entries at bottoms, and I take risk at bottoms. I don't take the risk at the tops. Breakout traders take risk at tops. It's a valid strategy. It's just very risky, and you have to be prepared on your risk management. Whereas taking risk at bottoms is a lot easier, because at the end of the day, you're buying in from a position of strength. You're buying low instead of high. totally different mentality needs to be applied here, but it's a lot safer with regards to risk management. And if you've been around here in trading for a while, you know that risk is public enemy number one for a trader. And number two, guys, risk is not what you want to do. You're not gambling. You're not meant to be gambling. Okay, you're supposed to be in a calculated scenario as best as you can, and buying bottoms is the best way to do it. Now, my next thing that I want to bring up to you is this. I don't like that we're back into the bearish control zone. I don't like that the EMAs are facing down. I don't like the red histogram bars. I don't like this. It's not looking good. So this is why I'm a little bit worried here. But then again, if I get some confirmations, I'm only getting in a spot. This could be a bullish response, guys. You got to admit, though, it worked very hard to get into the bullish control zone. A retracement, a little bit of a retracement is nothing to worry about, because ultimately, once it gets up into the bullish control zone again, could we go for another leg up similar to what happened here? We fight to get into the bullish control zone. Yeah, it kind of shakes us out in the last minute, does one of these, and then bang, straight up. Is this going to happen? Is this right here our first few potential, proof of life type of scenarios before we actually look at this whole thing, guys? Like, you look at that. Right? This whole thing definitely is trending upwards. Is it time to start seeing, purple expansion after purple expansion, and then we start seeing this thing fly? And this is where we're early. I feel like we're very early because we are in that transitionary phase at the bottom of the range, looking at a floor price, looking at an accumulation range, potential accumulation range, and you can see that in accumulation ranges we get those sweeps, guys. So be prepared. These are the sweeps that I'm talking about, those crazy liquidity sweeps down here. We could still get another one. That's why spot is healthy here before and after we get one. Then you can take more risk because maybe it's been done. Okay, we already flushed everybody out. Market makers had a bit of fun. We're still holding spot, all good. And then on the confirmation backtest, you get the spring and you start moving to the upside. Look at the history is a great way to learn from price action. Look at this: sweep, backtest, and spring. Okay, beautiful. Because at this point, people got shaken out. Stop losses got triggered. All kinds of people were like, oh, we're coming down. It's over. It's dead. We're in a downtrend. Boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden, backtest in spring. And everybody turns away and looks at it. It looks the other way. And then all of a sudden, it just totally moves. And meanwhile, all these guys got shaken out of their bags. This is what the shakeouts are: opportunities for indications of manipulation. Okay, so just keep an eye on it, guys. DSYNC is doing okay. Price-wise, fundamentals, I think it's decent, guys. If I've offered you any value, guys, here on this deep dive, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join that Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Guys, if you want to be a part of the next deep dive scenario, join the Discord and vote on the projects that you may want me to cover. You guys vote and I do the research. Take care. See you tonight at 8 PM EST. And don't forget, buy the dip.